Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your morning briefing for Monday, the 8th of December, 2025. This is Robert saying in for Mike. Let's move on to the domestic sit rep. A former DEA official, Deputy Chief of Financial Operations Paul Campo, was charged over the weekend with conspiring to launder money for what he thought was the Cartel Jalisco Nuevo Generacion. Something that stuck out to me in this report and the indictment that the DOJ released is that Campo told a confidential informant that he had been hired by other people like the head of the CJ&G cartel to get their money back. He's accused of conspiring to launder millions of what he thought were dollars in CJ&G proceeds from drug sales. The Supreme Court also announced on Friday that it's going to take up a lawsuit against President Donald Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. There are no signs yet on which direction they will go, and they have also not announced when oral arguments are scheduled for this case. Moving over to the domestic side, Indiana House of Representatives passed a new mid-decade map on Friday, and this would give Republicans likely all 9 Indiana congressional seats. The Indiana State Senate is scheduled to start hearings on the map this week and vote on it on Thursday, the 11th of December. This would give Republicans another additional likely 2 seats heading into 2026. Some other Republican states are now looking at redistricting after the Supreme Court gave the okay for that Texas map. Florida, though, is probably going to be the largest single state left to give a significant amount of seats, which could be 5 or more. But it's waiting on this imminent Supreme Court ruling on the Voting Rights Act. Part of that is that in the state of Florida in 2010, there was this amendment to the state constitution passed called the Fair Districts Amendment, which restricts partisan gerrymandering in the state. So it looks like Florida is going to be in play only when this Supreme Court decision happens, which still does look likely to strike down the Voting Rights Act, Section 2. And then finally, on the domestic side, President Trump ordered the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission to establish what he's calling food supply chain security task forces. In this order, he outlines that these task forces are going to investigate potential price fixing in the food industry in the U.S., but I think also more importantly, if foreign entity control of U.S. food-related industries is increasing the cost of food products or creating a national economic security threat. This has been a long-time issue of concern and been discussed for multiple years now, the idea that there are foreign entities who are purchasing farm and pasture land, foreign ownership of some food processing companies within the U.S. food supply chain. And now it looks like the Trump administration is taking at least the first step into addressing that by establishing these task forces. So what they're going to do is investigate the foreign control of U.S. food supply chains and at least identify any potential threats to the Trump administration. Jared, if you could come on and take us through the global sit rep, please.
Absolutely. We're going to start off over in Asia. Over the weekend, a Chinese carrier-launched fighter jet conducted a radar lock-on upon a Japanese fighter conducting identification operations, and this is all coming from the Japanese defense minister. Now, the Chinese did say that there was an interaction there. They're a little bit wishy-washy on whether or not they did achieve a radar lock-on, but they also claim that the Japanese were harassing the carrier strike group that is now out there. That carrier strike group just got there Friday afternoon. Over in the United Kingdom, former British Minister of Defense Director of Nuclear Policy, Admiral Philip Mathias, told The Telegraph that the UK is no longer capable of managing a nuclear submarine program. And he also said that this is due to its total inability to build submarines on time.
We talked on Friday. We didn't go in depth too much into it, the new national security strategy. But I've seen a lot of commentary, especially from your EU officials, that the Trump administration is basically betraying Europe by pointing out exactly this problem, that Europe is not able to really stand on its own, and that there's the threat that Europe will be non-European in the future, and that's a problem for the U.S. alliance with Europe. Do you think this is a sign that analysis from the Trump administration is correct, that there is an ongoing security issue where with Europe, that they're not going to be able to maintain an actual military force in line with NATO?
Yeah, I think I think this particular problem is indirectly related, but the overall readiness issue is directly related. Just you need strong morale throughout the entire nation, the populace there, in order to actually achieve, in order to hit Manning and also have actual readiness and maintenance. And just they don't have that. Nobody wants to do it anymore. But also, just to finish out the piece, Admiral Matthias is also calling on the United Kingdom to just withdraw from the Australia, UK, US nuclear program agreement, or nuclear submarine program agreement, because he says they just won't be, the UK will not be able to achieve its timelines. So stop holding people back.
All right. Thank you, Jared.
All right. And lastly, Qatari and Panamanian officials offered to mediate talks between the United States and Venezuela at the Doha Forum this weekend. And Panama's deputy foreign minister said that Panama would also be willing to receive certain actors to facilitate an agreement. Basically, we'll allow Venezuelan officials to stay in Panama, with no issues, so that we can actually get this done and reduce the temperature here in the Caribbean.
All right, well, let's move on to our next slide. We're tracking 54 protests today, and as Mike has said before, if you are near one of these yellow dots, it's a good idea to go out and see which local political parties, political activists are showing up to participate in these protests. And we're now going to move over to the high side, where we are going to cover our Homeland operations update, including the chief of the Minneapolis Police Department ordering his officers to intervene in what he said were potential use of excessive force by ICE in Minneapolis. We're also going to talk about the Supreme Court case, which is going to be having oral arguments today. And this is over the firing of the FTC Commissioner, Rebecca Slaughter. And there's a potential here for a ruling from the Supreme Court to significantly expand the authority of President Trump over the executive branch. And if you'd like to join us for the high side, you can go over to forwardobserver.com/trial and get a 7-day free trial. Take us over to the high side, Jared.